two standout wide receivers entering the 2023 rookie draft. Tough decisions. They come in all shapes and sizes. We got two different sizes here, one big, one small. And these guys are different, but they're being drafted in a similar range. So everything is a very, very close ADP. We're not taking a first-round guy and a third-round guy and going pick your poison. And we're going to find out who we want to draft first and why. We're talking categories like athleticism, route running, statistical, catchability, and playmaking. Those are our main categories. That's what our scouting sheet looks like. You can't see that unless you're on the Patreon. Patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. We're going to start off with the athleticism category. When it comes to top-end speed, burst, acceleration, agility, and elusiveness, who has the edge? Nate, I know you don't like starting first, so we're going to start with you.
Quentin Johnston here has the edge for me. Just right away, his athleticism is really impressive. And it's not only just impressive by itself, but it's extremely impressive because he's 6'3". You don't usually see the kind of fluidity that Quentin Johnston has, after the catch. You don't usually see that with those 6'3" players. Usually, the bit more lumbering and, more of a long strider than the tight space kind of guy. But Quentin Johnston, he's able to just make moves, have good balance, move laterally and create yards after the catch. And it's not something you see very often with guys like that. So I think, his long speed, he's obviously a burner. If he gets moving, he's got those long strides. Mm-hmm. He's got the acceleration. He's got the agility. Like I said, very impressive. Josh Downs, certainly no slouch at all with the athleticism. He's really good too, but Quentin Johnston just has that next gear. Josh Downs doesn't quite have the top speed that Quentin Johnston has. He has really good burst, really good agility, but that top speed just isn't quite there. And I think it's a little bit because of his size. When you have as long as legs as Quentin Johnston, it makes it a little bit easier to run fast.
Yeah, I do like Quentin Johnston in this category a lot. I think just the speed, it can't be taught. It's given to you. It's athletic ability that you have, and he's just incredible that way. And I just really think, honestly, like he has a lot of raw athletic ability too that I don't think he's tapped in yet into his game, to be honest. So that could be impressive to see what he turns out to be in the NFL. But I'm going with Quentin Johnston here. I still think Downs has good agility and elusiveness, especially in his route running, which we'll get to. But I think that's where the big difference is for those two, the top end speed and the agility. I have to go with Quentin Johnston, though.
I mean, when you see a guy like Quentin Johnston, you think about these big perimeter wide receivers that aren't really elusive. They're not very fast. They could just kind of go up, high point, come down with it. They're good in the end zone. And I do think that Quentin Johnston can be that guy. But athletically speaking, and again, we're really going through this with fine tooth comb. Both of these guys are fantastic prospects, and I like them both, to be completely honest with you. But just the top end speed, the initial burst, and the elusiveness with Quentin Johnston, he puts it over the edge, and I have him 1.3 points ahead of Josh Downs. So, there is a little bit of a gap there, not anything sizable, but I definitely like what I see. Let's move on to the next category here, and that is route running.
Well, with route running, I'm going to give the edge here to Josh Downs. I think this is a pretty consensus answer here. Josh Downs, great route runner. He has the technical ability to get in and out of his routes. He runs a variety of them. He creates separation in a lot of different ways, and I really like that. He's got the athleticism to create deep separation, but he's also got the ability to create separation out of his cuts and breaks on the intermediate routes, the short routes, and he has a knack for finding space. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that just constantly gets into open spaces, and that really helps him out production-wise because he has the yak ability to go with when he's in open space to really take advantage of that. So just a guy that is always getting open, is a good route runner. He has a solid release off the line. He's going to be limited to the slot. We do know that. I don't have any reasons to doubt, that he's going to be able to fill everything that we need to do out of their slot, with his routes and ability to get open.
Yeah, and his release package to me is probably one of the best things he has. I mean, the way he can just change his speed, you see where maybe he's not running full speed right off the rip, but right after he sees a break, I mean, he takes off and he is gone. And that to me separates him from Quentin Johnston. I think his route running is way better than his. Quentin Johnston just seems to be a little stiff sometimes, and it just doesn't seem to be as fluid as what Downs shows. I mean, there's routes that Downs shows. I mean, he's not going to be a super shifty guy, but he's a guy that's precise. You don't see any wasted movement, it seems like, on some of his routes. So that's where it gets over the top for me. I just love his release package, man. I think it's incredible to see what he does, especially that's going to be very helpful in the red zone. We've seen Wes Welker release package in that area and gets him wide open, finds a touchdown. So I think that's actually going to be pretty huge for Josh Downs moving forward in the NFL.
Yeah, so I think we're all kind of on consensus on this one here. We all like Josh Downs in this category. For me, just the release off the line is much better. The routes are sharper. He separates just a lot better, and I think he's a technically better separator than Quentin Johnston. And it's more about just relying on the speed that he has. Technically, he's very good at separating as well, which is great. Coaches in the NFL love that. Let's move on to, again, so we all had Downs there. So category 1, we all had Quentin Johnston. Category 2, we all had Josh Downs. So let's see if we have any discrepancies here. Let's go to catchability. Nate, we're going to kick it off to you again.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Downs here. I think Downs has a great ability to catch the ball, and despite his small frame, winning contested catch situations because he has great ability to track the ball. I mean, this guy, he can find the ball no matter where. He flashes his hands late. I really like that because it helps him, win those contested catch situations because the cornerback has, basically no time to react. So he understands how to win in those situations. And not only is he just a good catcher of the ball, and that's why I have him over Quentin Johnston, but on the other flip side, Quentin Johnston is not a guy I trust to catch the ball. I don't trust Quentin Johnston. It's unfortunate because in contested catch situations, he has the ability to go up there and win the ball and be physical, but the body catches are all over the film. Yeah, you guys both nod your head because it's littered through the film. So many opportunities that, he was not able to convert down the field because he was going for the basket catch rather than, attacking the ball in the air and being aggressive. So many opportunities where he's running an intermediate route and double catches the ball, or it bounces off of his chest because he's trying to catch a bullet pass, 8 yards away from the line of scrimmage with his chest. Those things just don't work in the NFL usually. It's just, I don't think he's a natural catcher of the ball with his hands. And that's not only just, below where Josh Downs is, I think it's actually like below average.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Downs, to me, he has cocky hands, man. He has hands that he's going to make plays and he's going to use his hands to catch it. And he's going to make things happen down the field. I mean, you say he's only going to be a slot guy. That doesn't mean he's going to be a shifty in the between guy. He's going to be a guy that can run deep routes as well. And, he's not the most physical guy, but once he sees the football in the air, he goes and gets physical. He knows that's his ball. I have to go make a play. And that's one thing I really do love about Josh Downs. I know if the ball is thrown to him, he's going to do his best to go get it. He's a smaller stature guy, so if the ball is above his head, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. But that's what I love about him most. He goes up and uses his hands to make plays. And, with Quentin Johnston, we just don't see that. We see him kind of just play down to his level, especially against OSU this last year. Smaller cornerback up against him. And it just seems like he just never went up and made plays against him. The little guy won a lot of that game. There were some plays that he beat him on, but there's also plays where you see him play down to his level, play down to the smaller guy. And, he has the size advantage, but Downs destroys him on contested catches, in my opinion. I think Quentin Johnston has the athleticism to be the better one, but we just don't see it. We see it sometimes, but we just don't see it all the time. And that's really what I hate about Quentin Johnston at the moment is I see it. I see the start of that he could have.
The physicality for Downs and at the catch point, the contested catch, and his hands aren't the purest hands in the class. I'll say that goes to Marvin Mims. I don't think he has issues catching the ball. And I have a lot of questions with Quentin Johnston catching the ball. And the thing is, when you're a wide receiver, that is a concern for me. It's a big concern. He does track the ball well, but I think his hands are average at best, Quentin Johnston, that is. And I did expect more at the contested catch from him too. Like Chev, like you see, he just lets himself get bullied. You're 6'3", you're 5 inches taller than the guy covering you. Like what's the deal? All right, so let's go to playmaking, and we're talking yards after the catch or contact, versatility and physicality. Who has the edge here? Nate, we're going to start with you. It looks like we finally have some disagreement.
Ooh. All right. So, he uses his athleticism, Josh Downs, his burst to get down the field very quickly. If he gets open space, I talked earlier about how he's always finding open space in plays, and that's where he's getting the ball. And then he has green grass to work with, and he does really well with that. Sometimes he will go backwards to go forwards, and I'm not sure if that's going to work in the NFL. It works great in the ACC. Not sure if that's going to fly all the time in the NFL where the guys are all, top of the conference at that point. Outside of that, the versatility, Josh Downs, I think, incredible versatility. Despite being limited to the slot, the ability to put him on screens, sweeps, get him down the field. He was used out of the backfield versus Pitt in multiple different plays, and he was able to create first down plays. Coaches love that. If they can put a wide receiver in the backfield, throw him a little wheel route, and get 8 yards to get the first down, that is a great thing for a coach. They're going to love that. That's a wide receiver they want on their team. So I think Josh Downs just has a lot to going for him with his playmaking ability. Quentin Johnston, same thing. I think he's a great playmaker, but I think just he's not quite the quick twitch athlete that Josh Downs is, and he doesn't have quite the ability to, make people miss that Josh Downs has. Josh Downs is really, really good after the catch. Quentin Johnston, pretty good after the catch, but not quite as good as Josh Downs.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on the same boat with you. I love Josh Downs here. I think he just creates so much space for himself to make plays after the catch. Now, is he going to break tackles? No, that's not going to be his game. He's going to be a guy that uses his speed, uses his burst to get past people. Will he do it every once in a while? Probably. But Quentin Johnston, to me, has more of a breaking tackle kind of physical attitude of running with the football. I just see him doing more. And I love his spin move. His spin move after the catch is honestly pretty elite. It seems like it is Big 12 football. I will say that. But the guy seems to break it open whenever he makes a play. He's using that spin move on shorter routes, which is nice to see that he has that in his repertoire. But physicality, I think Quentin Johnston has him again, but like I said, it's not always about being the best blocker. It's not always about being the most physical player that's going to go out and block. I like to see that, but I love to see the physicality when he's going up for the football more. And right now I think Downs has that, and I think versatility wise, I think Downs can make plays all over the field, and I don't know if Quentin Johnston's going to be able to do that. And we know Downs can make plays. He's had 90 catches the last 2 years, over 1,000 yards. Like, I know he's going to be able to get a lot of passes thrown to him, and he's going to make plays with those. I can't say the same for Quentin Johnston at this point. It just seems like he was a little bit of a disappointment in that kind of category.
I went with Quentin Johnston in this category. I just think after the catch, and especially on screens, surprisingly, he was fantastic on screens. Mm-hmm. I just think he brought a little bit more to the table than Joshua Downs does. Mm-hmm. And I like Downs. That's it. Surprisingly, I have Downs rated higher in this category in physicality. I do think after the catch, Johnston is a little bit better. And I think he's a little more versatile. I know you said that they line Downs up in the backfield against Pitt, but they line Quentin Johnston up everywhere. Mm-hmm. Everywhere. And there was some times after the catch where I thought he got tackled at the catch point. I think that was more Max Duggan not delivering the ball when and where it should have. By the way, bad. I saw,
not great.
Let's go to the last category before we take our overall pick. Statistical. So, frame size, injury history, analytics, all that good stuff. Nate.
Yeah. So production wise, Quentin Johnston didn't have his first year over 1,000 receiving yards until his junior year. But you go back and look at the efficiency stats. TCU just didn't really pass the ball a lot until this past season. They got Sonny Dykes, their new head coach, came from SMU. Big passing offense, changed that whole offense. That's why Johnston got over 1,000 yards this year. But the years before, he was still the leading receiver for TCU. He was still very impressive. So a good 3 years of production. Josh Downs also a good 3 years production. His freshman year, got on the field just a little bit, got over 100 yards. But his last 2 seasons, he was certainly one of the best wide receivers in college football. Played with Sam Howell, had over 100 receptions with him and 1,300 yards. Played with Drake May, who's going to be a first rounder next year, 94 receptions, 1,000 yards. So, it's a really close one here with just production wise. Josh Downs has done it. Quentin Johnston has done it. They both have done great. I don't think either one has a huge concern with injury history. We've seen Johnston injured a little bit. We've seen Downs injured just a little bit. The big thing I think comes down to when we're looking at statistics and measurables is the frame here. And Quentin Johnston has a plus frame. Josh Downs doesn't have a plus frame. He actually has, I wouldn't say a poor frame, but you would want more. I would say it's below average. In today's NFL, everyone is a little bit smaller. So 5'9" for a slot receiver is not, a deal breaker for me.
I put it's not desirable. Like it's not, not what you really want, but it's still decent.
Yeah. And because of that, I'm going to go Quentin Johnston here.
Yeah, I'm going Quentin Johnston as well. I I honestly love Downs' production. Having him in C2C this last year, absolute blessing, because the guy just went out and put up touchdowns all day. It seemed like it was like 2 or 3 touchdowns every game, just absolute stud. But to me, it just comes down to the frame and size at this point. Quentin Johnston was just blessed with a bigger frame and size. And I think that helps you in the NFL. Not that I think Downs is going to suffer from that. I think it plays to his game well. They're obviously 2 different wide receivers. Yeah. They play the game completely different than each other. But I think that size, to me, they're the same rankings, or number-wise in my film rankings. I'm going to go with the size. I just think it's more desirable at this point.
I went Downs just because the statistics are better. This is kind of, to me, an unfair comparison, but this is where this exercise is unfair for these 2 players. Mm-hmm. Statistically, Josh Downs is superior. Frame-wise, it's Quentin Johnston. But let me ask you guys this before we go to our overall. What do you think is more impressive? 1,069 yards and 60 catches with Max Duggan, 94 catches and 1,029 yards with Drake May, who looks to be an NFL future first-round draft pick. I mean, to me, it's the getting all that out of Max Duggan and that offense. And I understand it was a high-scoring offense, but the UNC offense, to me, was a little bit more pro-style. Mm-hmm. You know, he had, well, I don't know. They don't get targets. Apparently they don't give you that information here, but 94 catches is just amazing. And 101 catches the year before, man. Like, so let's go to our overall. Nate, overall, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm drafting Josh Downs before Quentin Johnston. And a lot of this comes down to risk. I think Downs and Quentin Johnston relatively have a similar grade to me, but Quentin's actually a decent bit lower than Downs at the end of the day because of my lack of trust in his ability to catch the ball. If I really believed that he was going to be able to overcome the body catches, I would probably have these guys just about equal. Maybe with going with Quentin Johnston, with the ability, with his frame and his ability to grow with that. Because I don't trust Quentin Johnston to catch the ball, and I'm not going to assume that he's going to change his ways until I've seen it, because I'm watching what's on film and what I've seen over, the past 2 or 3 years of college football. He's showing me that, he's not that aggressive in the air. He's catching the ball off his chest. I've seen these players who have these big frames and are physical with their athleticism and everything, but if they can't catch, they're not going to make it in this league. That you can be as athletic and physical as possible, but if you can't catch, you're not going to make it in this league. I don't want the next Brashad Perryman on my team. I'm going with Josh Downs. He's a guy that I know is going to be playing out of the slot. A team's going to give him a role. He's going to get volume. He's going to be able to do things with the ball after the catch. I love what he brings to the table. I'm not worried about the size because I know that that's fine for the role that he's going to fit. He's not going to be asked to be an X receiver, an outside receiver along the sideline. He's going to be in the slot. He's going to make a lot of yards out of the slot.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Downs as well. I just think the ability for the route running that he has, it's going to open up so much, and it's going to be plenty of opportunities where they're just going to throw quick passes to him and get first downs and just extend the drive. And, I don't think they do that with Quentin Johnston. I think his production is going to be a little bit lower just because they're not going to throw him the ball probably 10 to 12 times over the middle. He's going to get 6 to 8 targets probably. He could have 150 yards. He could have 40 yards. I mean, it's just going to depend week to week. Quentin Johnston could be the number 1 wide receiver in this class. At the end of the day, 5 years down the road, I can see him athletically being the guy that, we should have had number 1. But I'm not willing to put my money on him at the moment. I think he's an incredible athlete. I think he's got a lot of ability, but the hands, the route running for me is just not there at the moment, which he can get. But I'm sticking with Josh Downs. I know the route running, the ability I'm getting from him is going to be nice to have in your offense, especially in PPR.
Quentin Johnston could be the first guy off the board, just like Drake London was the first guy off the board. That doesn't mean that he's going to be the best guy for fantasy. Technically, I have Quentin Johnston higher, but this is a point where, and Nate, you've said this before in this podcast, you could have a player graded higher from what they did in college, but still like somebody better. I'm going with Downs. I just think he does everything so well that an NFL coaching staff is going to love him. Quentin Johnston, I have concerns. Physicality, hands, body catches, not it for me.